Meaning to Mbula is life as well. And I know we've had a very, very long week, so I want you to turn to your neighbor and shout a big Mbula to them.
Bula.
Mbula. Mbula. Let's get some life into your neighbor. I know you've been sitting for quite a while, so please bear with me. I won't take too much of your time. And I guess, before I go into this, as you can see, I'm here representing the Pacific community, which is an intergovernmental organization which focuses on international development, but is governed and owned by 27 country members and territories. So although I'm here, I'm from Fiji, I'm representing a whole lot of voices as well. You must be wondering what Integrate Pacifika is about. This whole week we've been hearing a lot about integration, integrated programs, coming together, collaboration and whatnot. And Integrate, very briefly, what it's trying to bring to the table is really a space where DRM and CC, climate change practitioners, can come together and share information and knowledge on a virtual platform. So not something to replace the face-to-face meetings, but something that would run parallel to strengthen the relationships that you develop through face-to-face workshops, trainings, or these type of conferences. And a space where that information and knowledge can be captured and also referenced back to. That's really what Integrate Pacifika is about. Two main outputs for Integrate Pacifika. One of which is the design and development of an information and knowledge sharing platform, a virtual platform. And second, which I think is the most important, other than the system, is the people, the communities of practice. So the second output of Integrate Pacifika is really focusing on the people, or the users, or the producers of information and knowledge. It all sounds very good verbally, but obviously before we jumped into actually implementing this initiative, there were a number of things that we had to, a number of perspectives, a number of realities that we had to take into account. My apologies, my presentation is not going to be technical, it's going to be pretty light, and I hope you could indulge me in the next few minutes. So, what we realized, particularly in the Pacific, or even where we've been hearing this entire week, there's quite a bit of risk-related, disaster risk-related information around it. There are pockets here and there, whether it's with the statistics department, whether it's with agriculture or whatnot. And it's kind of overwhelming, especially when you're talking about standards, when you're talking about how this data is collected. There's a lot of work to do, and these are some of the realities that we had to first acknowledge prior to actually heading into this initiative. Secondly, some of the solutions haven't worked. This is not the first time, we're trying to design and develop such a system. And there's the acknowledgement that some of these solutions haven't actually solved a problem, or rather brought about another problem. And so we had to actually really acknowledge that before we jumped into this. Thirdly, the overarching need for a centralized data system. We had instances where, especially in terms of research, where a regional university had a number of researchers that weren't actually being used in terms of the body of knowledge for DRM. And I think there's a lot that says about the amount of information that's out there as well. And obviously, we had to acknowledge that there'd be pushback, especially if you're asking different stakeholders to come to a common platform to share. Yeah? And these are some of the things that we have to acknowledge. Lastly, that we're all at different levels, something that we realized, whether it was at the national level, between different ministries, or at the regional level between different countries, we're taking into account the governance that goes into place, the human capacity, the technology, the processes therein. We're all trying to run the same race. Some are running, some are on bicycles, some are in a nice Lexus of sorts, probably progressing a lot more. Without a doubt, there's been quite a lot of work though that has been done in the Pacific. in terms of information management systems. And you can see there's quite a number of repositories, data portals, dashboards, all created, designed for their different mandates. So you could imagine me coming to our stakeholders and saying that we're going to put together another information management system, with a number of portals that we already have in the Pacific region. Of course, they're created or designed for the different mandates. Additionally, at the national level, these are some examples. In Tonga, you'd have a number of portals as well, all obviously made for their different mandates. Likewise in Cook Islands, I'm glad to have my Cook Islands colleagues here as well, who are all well versed with these portals as well. And so that left us, Integrate Pacifika, with quite an interesting dilemma or challenge. What were we going to do? What was the approach that we were going to take? With that being said, what was coming out from the countries was, first, we had to build on what was already there. And you've heard this across, if you're going through a number of sessions, this is something that has run across. Collaboration of building what's already at the local level, local context, or what's already there being done by the countries. Secondly was focusing early on relationship. If your relationship is good, what's your output? A good output. Relationship is bad, obviously it's going to be quite challenging to get to that output. And at the end of the day, you're dealing with people and relationships. And so Integrate Pacifika decided to, through conversations with our country stakeholders, there were two main things that we really wanted to focus on before jumping into, or as we went into this initiative. One of which was understanding the existing ecosystem. And secondly was designing with the user. Meaning that it wasn't just a consultation, but it was starting from ground zero with our stakeholders or with our users. This is the issue that we're facing. What are the solutions that we could use? What's the best way we can mold this together in the same room? Yeah, that means a lot of chefs in the kitchen. Obviously, we know what happens when there's a lot of chefs. It takes longer than expected and doesn't taste too good. And so we started with country consultations. We cast the net quite wide with our country consultations, of which we had 6 countries that we were working with. Cook Islands, Tonga, Samoa, Vanuatu, Marshall Islands, and Vanuatu. As you can see, it wasn't primarily just the national disaster management officers or the stats. We cast the net quite wide to understand the current ecosystem at the national level. And so that gave us an opportunity to work on the relationship as well in the countries. We also conducted a number of co-design workshops, whereby it was an opportunity to pack all the ideas, unpack the ideas, explore all the different solutions that countries were thinking about. So meaning doing this together in the same room. A lot of times we've not really done it in that manner. Some of the consultations are done in different rooms. And so we built relationship, we focused on relationship early. Likewise, we tried to build on what was already there locally. Obviously, we had to found ourselves on values as well. Knowing that we could build as many systems as possible, but without the users or the relationship or the values that underpin those relationships, there wouldn't be such sustainability in these efforts. We're talking about sustainability this entire week as well. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the people, not the systems, the processes, but the people behind all these things. Secondly, something that we really had to work on was how knowledge was not only shared, but how it was recorded, and also how it was reviewed and viewed, which was very important, especially in the Pacific. Something that we really lacked was capturing the amount of knowledge that was coming out, which would really happen across informal settings where we just sit down and talk. Thirdly was working together in collective resilience. something that we really had to do. And you know, I'm sharing this maybe at the national level, but we all know through the conversations that have been happening, this has been a recurring theme about working together in collective resilience. And so what we came up with was a very raw wireframe of what Integrate could do in terms of a system. Meaning bringing together the resources that were available within the Pacific, and also the communities of practice that where these resources would be very useful to them. So it is literally resources to the people, and that's what Integrate has been or is trying to do right now. We currently have a beta version up for the system, and we're hoping to launch later this year in November. And that's literally what Integrate Pacifika is about. I know I don't have much time, but I'll cut it there. And before I end, I'd like to take this time to also thank my colleagues from Tuvalu, Cook Islands, also present here throughout the week is Tonga, that are really the members that who have put together much of this work. Yeah? And with that, I'd like to also thank my colleagues that I Vinaka, thank you very much.